Hello and welcome to ETBFSI.com. My name is Amol Dethe and I'm in conversation with Hemant Kanoria. So welcome on the show.
Thank you.
So to begin with, there are three very important topics I have specifically for you. We have seen a lot of movement specifically into the NBFC sector, and also the government has tried to, make a lot of efforts to make NBFCs happy to resolve the problems of liquidity and all. To begin with, sir, I would like you to tell us, what are the major challenges that you are facing specifically into equipment finance and, the NBFC is the core area where your business is right now.
So basically, to start off from our customers' perspective, that with the lockdown, what has happened is, as it is for the last 2-3 years, the construction sector, the contracting segment, and the infrastructure sector had been facing some issues and problems at the ground level, and which after the lockdown has got compounded because they are having severe cash flow problems, both the infrastructure projects and also the construction and mining segment, because with lockdown their work has stopped. So therefore, and also with the many of the workers who are working with them, they are either under lockdown or they are waiting to go back to their homes, or they have gone back to their homes. And most of them are also migrant workers, because construction and mining sector, they have a large number of workers who are coming from the eastern part of India. So I think that there would be a dislocation in their entire work for the next 3 to 4 months. So I don't think so that before September, they will be able to resume their work full-fledged. And because of the problem which they are facing, over and above that, it has also got compounded because, which was continuing for some time, but it has got compounded because they have many of their bills pending with the government agencies, with the central government and the state governments. Also, there are a lot of arbitration awards which they have. There are disputes which are going on, which have not got settled. So all these have resulted in severe cash flow issues to the customers that we have. And because our customers are primarily in the infrastructure sector and the infrastructure related sector, so that has had a severe impact. And because of their liquidity issues, definitely we have to also see how we manage our liquidity. We have been able to manage it quite well till now. And we hope we should be in a position to keep on managing it well. But, at one time or the other, we will come to a crossroad where there will be issues.
Agrees, but I have now 2-3 very specific questions related to your sector. Construction, mining activities were actually any which way going through a tough time because of the economic slowdown before COVID-19. How much of it has actually added because of COVID-19 and the lockdown? And what will it take, to bring back the migrant workers? What will it take for you to, restart the engines? Because until and unless you don't do that, I don't think you will be back on the track.
I think that basically for the construction, mining, and the infrastructure companies, liquidity is the biggest issue. So therefore, if they are in a position to get liquidity, then the entire ball will start rolling again. And for them to get liquidity, so NBFCs like us, we must be in a position to tap onto the liquidity. Second, whatever their issues with the government on their bills which are pending, or the arbitrations awards which are pending, or under dispute, so those need to be resolved with alacrity and payments need to be made, because liquidity is the only way. It's like putting fuel into a car to run. If you do not have fuel in the car, you may have the best car, but it will not move and the best driver. So similarly, for all the infrastructure projects, liquidity is the fuel which is required to restart the engines.
Great, and obviously you give me a chance to ask the question which was specifically about the liquidity. The government of India and obviously the finance minister has specifically announced few schemes. In our first scheme also, she gave a good relief for MSMEs, including few to NBFCs. And in her latest speech, she also gave a lot of directions in terms of how can NBFCs raise fund, whether 45,000 crore to people, partial credit guarantee, or the rest from the the different parts. How do you think, first is, what is your reading about these tapes? Do you feel that liquidity problem has been resolved by the government?
No, I will say that it will get partly alleviated, but it will not get resolved, because what is going to happen is that with this liquidity boost which has been given and the guarantee which the government is providing, because many of the things have to happen simultaneously.
Right.
Because let us suppose it's like a multi-organ failure. So if you just address one particular part, it is not going to help, because all the parts need to be addressed together. So what I mean by that is that basically this liquidity which will be coming in most of the banks or financial institutions like us also, when we are going to provide extra liquidity to the customers, we will first of all want to adjust their overdues which are there. So
Right.
actually they may not get anything in their hands. So what should have been done along with this, RBI should have allowed a one-time restructuring to all companies. By doing
Right.
that, the immediate requirement of the borrower could have been addressed, because the present NPL or the overdues which are there, that need not to have been settled, because that could have got an elongated time frame to be paid, and whatever
Right.
excess liquidity which they were getting would have been used to restart their engine by buying fuel, by bringing back the migrant workers, by buying the raw materials, etc. to start over. So I think that this should have got coupled. So the step taken by the government of India has been a very good step. But simultaneously, I think that RBI now needs to be nudged to allow this one-time restructuring to all the borrowers.
Right. I do understand a lot of NBFCs have actually, given presentations to RBI specifically to allow them for a one-time restructuring. I do understand the point that you made specifically about the government's liquidity. But could you, elaborate more on this restructuring part? How many accounts you as a company you will go for, a restructuring, and how will it actually benefit you?
So basically what happens is that almost about 60 to 70% of our clients have already
Right.
approached us for the restructuring.
Right.
And if we do not do the restructuring as per RBI norms today, that there is SMA 0, SMA 1, SMA 2, and then 90 days, above 90 days, you have to make a provision, and it becomes an NPL, non-performing loan, and it is becoming a non-standard asset. So as soon as it becomes a non-standard asset after 90 days, the loan, then we cannot give further loan, because we'll have to make a high provision for that.
Absolutely.
If it is SMA 0, SMA 1 and 2, because 30 days if the payment is overdue, or 90 days or 60 days, then again, no one wants to touch that particular client. So therefore, as soon as these parameters needs to be changed, in normal times it is fine. But today we have a natural calamity. So in times of natural calamity, it is important to basically change the guidelines, which will be more aligned to the practical situation which is there.
True, but any number for you as a company, because we do understand there is so much pain in infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, specifically the construction in areas and all, I do understand your standard infrastructure, but the construction, mining, and wherever you are lending to SMEs and those areas, how much will be the book there when I speak about the NPAs or restructuring?
No, not the NPL. They have not become NPLs, but they have all
Okay.
asked for almost 60 to 70% of our clients have
Correct.
got back to us and asking for a long-term moratorium or restructuring because of their cash flows which have got stuck up.
Okay. And how much will it be for industry, sir? Any rough idea, estimation?
I think that for the entire industry, it would be almost 100% of the companies will go in for. So all the banks and all also would be facing the same issue, that wherever they have led to infrastructure or to the construction, mining segment, hospitals, hotels, even hospitals, diagnostic, like we also finance healthcare equipments. So all the diagnostic centers are lying closed. All the hospitals, the private sector hospitals, everyone is so busy with the COVID. So therefore, no normal diagnostic is taking place. The equipments are not working, so they do not have the cash flow. So every productive asset, and our company, Srei, we have been financing not consumer durables, or we have not been doing consumer loans. We have been financing assets which are used for basically production, for assets which are used for generating employment. So these are all productive assets. So therefore, because the entire production cycle has come to a standstill in the lockdown for the last 2 months, so therefore the cash flow of all these companies have got affected.
Okay. One more very important point which I have is obviously the government has announced XYZ amount for the NBFC sector, but still a few people still have the questions on the fine prints because it's not allowed, it's not out yet. Do you also have some doubts? Do you also see that same should reflect or translate into the fine prints? Because initially also the government had announced the partial trade guarantee scheme and of almost 1 lakh crore, and what was used was not more than 10,000 crore. So how do you see the mismatch there?
I think that what you have highlighted is definitely a mismatch, because the agencies who are basically going to be dispersing, like the long-term TLTRO also, which was allowed, very few companies were able to get the benefit. Here also, very few companies will be in a position to get the benefit out of it, because see what happens is it's a chicken and egg situation. So when the lenders, whether it be SIDBI, which is a nodal agency, or any banks, when they are lending, they have to be careful to the companies they want to lend are AAA rated companies, because ultimately they are responsible for it. And that is the reason why, and for the companies to be AAA or AA, their cash flows needs to be in order. So let's suppose that, that's why I mentioned that, what is also important is, while the government has they have addressed the larger issue, but the operational issue of, first of all, allowing all the borrowers to go through a one-time restructuring during the COVID time, that is the most important thing, because as I mentioned, that they do not then come under SMA 0, 1, 2 or NPL. Then the banks see that it is a standard account, then they can extend loans. If it is a non-standard account, they will not be in a position to give them loans. So whatever the government's objective gets partially only achieved, because at the ground level, these realities also have to be addressed, which the regulator for those companies like banks and NBFCs are regulated by RBI. So RBI also needs to simultaneously take those particular steps so the effect comes in.
Right. Now, when we look at the lockdown and whatever the impact that we have seen of COVID-19 on many sectors, what do you think? Obviously, government is trying its best. We can see this 20 lakh crore package. Obviously, we are yet to get the details about how exactly they will spend this. But you're catering to one of the very important sector. Going ahead, once the lockdown is lifted, and once the government's plan is also out, what do you think about the economy? How long will it take for economy to revive? What is your rough estimation? If not the whole economy, at least in your sectors, when do you think the situation will improve or change?
See, I think that if there are certain practical steps which are taken, then I think that the sector to bounce back would take about 6 to 9 months. If those practical steps sector-wise is not taken, then I think it may take 2 to 3 years time, because more companies will go into bankruptcy, more companies will be, because now they cannot be admitted into bankruptcy also. So therefore they will just keep on hanging in the middle. So they will be in suspended animation, many of the companies. So I think that it is really very critical to address the practical issues at the ground level of the companies, because the government's announcement at a strategic level is very good. But now we have to get down to the brass tacks and see that what are the issues and how it can be resolved.
Right. And my last question is, obviously restructuring is a very important point that most of the NBFCs and you are also talking about. But now the government has taken this decision, and when you said that the ground level is very important, do you see some translation will happen in a seamless manner? Will the bankers be as reluctant as they were? Will the NABARD and the other financial institutions will be as reluctant as they were, or there will be some change that you're seeing or you're witnessing or you're expecting?
No, I'm hopeful about it that it should change, but will it change is difficult to say.
That's quite interesting, Mr. Kanoria. And thank you so much for sharing your valuable thoughts. Thank you so much for talking to ETBFSI and sharing the comprehensive insights. Thank you so much.